Hey everybody, welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we talk a lot about the channel on our show. And I'm
Yes.
going to assume that most of the people who are listening know what that means.
That's fair. Yeah.
Unless you're
Yeah.
just brand new to this space and you
Don't
want to
understand.
learn about it, and which like
What, they're changing the channel? No, it's not.
No,
It doesn't have anything to do with your TV.
It's not. But, and obviously I'm hoping they understand the parts and the players and the roles that are within it. But my understanding is I've only been in this company, in this channel, if you will, for little less than 5 years now. And I admit I didn't understand a lot of it when I first came in.
Oh, sure.
And I also understand that a lot has changed over, even just the last few years, the last decade or two. You've had experience with that. I know you were on the reseller world for a while.
Yep.
You've been with BlueStar for a while.
Yep.
Well, we're kind of going to get into a little bit of that today about what's changed, what's changing, and maybe get a little predictive.
Oh, we're breaking out the crystal ball again?
One of our favorite things to do. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Make
fair
predictions
enough.
that will come back and haunt us in a few years. So today we've got Tracy Tucker with us from Citizen. We're going to talk a little about how the channel's evolved in his time as well, what he's seen happen. We're going to talk about the role of software because that's a big changing part of this channel right now.
Yep.
Getting the distribution. We'll talk a little bit about ourselves and how we fit into that.
Okay.
A little bit about the Amazon effect that everyone's always concerned about. And then we'll do some of that 3 to 5 year forecasting and kind of figure out what's happening next. What should we be thinking about and prepared for?
Good topic, though, right? It's on everybody's mind. What's the future hold?
Exactly.
We're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Now don't hold us to everything. Don't say Dean and John said that this is going to happen and that therefore we are changing our entire company.
Yeah, no, well,
I don't want to be held responsible for that.
No, I don't want that responsibility.
Just some good advice. Maybe Tracy. Listen to what he says.
Oh, yeah,
He's the
Tracy.
expert
We'll put it all on him.
Yeah, exactly. All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's tech connecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today, Tracy Tucker, is the Senior Director of Channel Sales for Citizen. Tracy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Actually, I believe you told us earlier you're almost more the supply chain guy at Citizen now. So explain more about your role, how it's changed, especially in this crazy new dynamic, which is a perfect reason why we have you on the show, because you've experienced this change. And give us a little bit of your background.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. I was just having a conversation a couple of days ago with somebody saying, I have to do the supply chain part, and the ops and all of that stuff. But my real joy is to be out with the people. I'm a man of the people, if nothing else. So I like to be out in the channel, talking with strategically with people about solving business problems. Looking at spreadsheets and predicting arrival dates is not what I like to do for a living. But as you said, I'm a Senior Director of America's Channel Sales here at Citizen. So I have both North America and Latin America as well. And I've been at Citizen I'm in my 11th year, almost 11 years I've been at Citizen. And before that, I started in the POS and barcode industry right out of college. The first job I had was with the manufacturer in 1988. And so I've seen a lot of change in that period of time. I say that there's got to be another way to make a living, but I haven't figured out what it is yet.
Once you're in, you get kind of roped in, right?
Yeah, it's like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. So,
that's the channel right there.
It sounds like it. Yeah,
that is right. So I've seen a lot of change in 34 years, and I've been on the VAR side of things and the manufacturer side of things. So I've sold to distributors and bought from distributors. So that's how I got to know the channel from top to bottom. So anyway, here we are.
No doubt. Well, then let's talk about that experience, that 34 years you mentioned in the channel. What have you seen evolve during that time? Like, what has been some of the big cataclysmic changes that have happened to get us where we are today?
Sure. Well, it's in 1988 when I started, it was really before the distributors as we know them existed, right? And so the manufacturers were having to sell to small and medium-sized VARs, and the manufacturers didn't do a very good job of that. And so, some of the distributors as we know them, including BlueStar, came into really the form that they are now during that time, because the manufacturers did a terrible job of being available to and having product for the small to medium sized VAR. And so the channel was kind of born out of necessity, and at least that's what I observed. And over time, distributors it was very inside the box kind of thinking back then, right? So distributors were a warehouse and a bank that allowed me to get credit terms and product when I couldn't get the manufacturer's attention as I was a VAR. And that has certainly evolved over time, especially with a company like BlueStar. The distributors have figured out that there is more to distribution than just being a bank and a warehouse. There is much more value to add, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah, we've kind of figured that one out as a value-added distributor, no doubt about it. But let's go back and talk a little bit about the evolution. A lot of people talk about how our channel is, when you look at the maturity curve, right, that it's a mature channel, right? And so now you're starting to see a lot of those aspects come to fruition, meaning consolidation and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the nuances maybe that's happening in the channel right now today and how it's evolved a little bit, Tracy. One of the things that I'll bring on the table is that it seems like our world is really heavy on price exceptions, deal registrations, price concessions, you whatever acronym you want to put after it or whatnot. A lot of the deals in the channel today are being driven by that. Not so much the case, early on, right? Where maybe wasn't the case. What are your thoughts on that, and like some of the little nuances within the channel and how it's kind of evolving?
Sure. I remember way back when the VAR could command very high margin just by finding a deal. And, we always used to say that barcode that's on a product, no one knows how it got there, or no one knows what it means or what to do with it, right? And that magic was what VARs in our channel tended to do. They could go in and spec out a system and build around it, and everything was proprietary. And, it was a very closed kind of network situation where they could go in and define their value and command very large margins. And then people figured out that the barriers to entry into this channel were low, and so people started to pop up, and all over the place. The map became dotted with companies that all did the same thing. And then big companies got into the market, large companies who came to market via the internet. I mean, certainly the internet changed things quite a bit when I could search for a product online. So customers would spend all this time researching, and then, they'd search for the product online, and up would pop someone who would sell it to them at much less money than the VAR who had spec'd out all the work and done all the work had done. So that's where price exceptions and deal registration kind of came into play, right? It's like, wait a minute, I've done all the work here. I deserve to be protected in this situation. And, there's some truth to that. So, market forces being what they are, everybody was looking for the best value proposition and the least expensive price in a lot of cases. And so that pressure began to squeeze margins. And, VARs had to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to change our model to protect our margins? Well, we have to add value too, right? We have to look for software and services and this and that and the other to add to the mix, so that these end users still want to do business with us instead of just shopping for the lowest price with the biggest company. So a lot of maturity happened there as people redefined their business models.
Yeah, the margin that we were getting and the mystery of what we were, the solutions we were providing, gone.
Yeah.
There's no mystery there anymore. So your points,
which is not a bad thing,
No, right, and
it just means you got to change your business model.
Exactly,
yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of folks are today, is trying to figure out, well, how do we get some of that margin back? And you're right, Tracy. Some of the early exploration, if you will, was in the software side, which is still viable. Mm-hmm. How do we do that? And I think we'll get into it here a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, how do you, as a business, you have to survive. You have to have good margins on it. So there has been a lot of look into that, and it's been really kind of fascinating to see the whole channel kind of evolve. Whereas you used to be able to be a one-trick pony and walk in, have high margins on a whatever electronic cash drawer or something like that, whatever you want to call it, and then but today that's not the case. You can't be the one trick pony. You got to be something different. So
yeah, definitely. Well, then let's talk about that software side of things, because I feel like that is,
right.
I guess, sort of the newest entry into the game, sort of. I mean, it's not like it's a brand new thing, but I do feel like, and just even in my time here and working with a lot of software partners and helping do marketing campaigns for them, it's clear that a software aspect of a solution is becoming a huge, strong selling point that can maybe get you a little above and beyond your competition.
That's right.
So help us to talk a little bit about this and this perception, because I think there is still a perception maybe amongst some VARs that software companies, these ISVs, TSEs, whatever you want to call them, are still the wild cards and not my problem. I don't know if I want to get into this. I'm afraid they might take business away from me somehow. I'll let my customer deal with that part of things. How does Citizen look at the role of software companies, and how is it continuing to change?
It's interesting. There's an old school group of people that I've known for 30 years who say, look, we just do this and we stay within our core competency and we crush it. We do it really well, and we like to sell hardware and we like to sell media and all those things that they do. Very inside the box, auto ID, if you will, kind of thinking. Then there's a new generation of people who are pure software and solutions oriented, who wouldn't know a printer if they tripped over it. You know what I mean? So it seems to be two vast ends of the spectrum. I think the companies that are growing and capturing share are the companies that get the blending of the two, right? As a manufacturer, my team and I'm surrounded by a bunch of veterans, industry veterans, and outside the industry, business savvy people. And my team and I have this thing that we say to each other, and that is, whoever controls the software controls the deal, right? So, while we make a stone, our printer is a thing that goes in a bigger picture. And so for us, we have to know what buying influences are happening to sell the deal. You know what I mean? So we have to understand the software play. We have to understand all of the adjacent technology to us to figure out what the ecosystem looks like and what our role within it is. Because if the company selling the software loses, we lose. And so we have to help them add value. And, we have to participate in the sales campaign as if we were running the whole deal. So as a manufacturer, that's how we tend to think. I think as a VAR, certainly the more the VAR understands, the more the VAR can put the pieces together and be the band leader, so to speak. You know what I mean? Some software companies like to sell direct, and that's okay, in which case you partner with them and you go along for the ride. But some companies like to license their software. In that case, the VAR needs to know what all the buying influences are and what business problem they're trying to solve. As a manufacturer, we have to be smart enough to know the difference, so we have the right partners, because whoever controls the software controls the deal.
I would agree with you. I was reading up on an article and they kind of put it this way, which I thought was really good. Many channel partners are creating all sorts of, and this is the key phrase, intellectual property, and becoming kind of looking more like vendors.
Right.
And I think that this is really accurate in the sense that if you're a solution integrator, again, you're not a one-trick pony anymore. You're looking for intellectual property that you can build through a network of partners, many of them being software partners, that you can build a tech stack that we talk about and solutions that you're taking to the marketplace, but you're building your own intellectual property, meaning these are things that you can now take to market, you can replicate, you can scale, those types of things. That's what this new breed of channel partner, I think, is trying to look for. Whereas, not so much on the equipment and what it is that, we can find equipment to facilitate it, but what's the intellectual property that we're building here? What are the relationships that I'm going to build that around to create these solutions that we can take to market? And I think that's really fascinating aspect of how the channel is really kind of changing.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Well, that's where the value is, right? It's that value proposition that allows you to command the margin, retain the margin. And companies that figure out how to retain their margins through their value proposition are the ones that are doing well.
Yeah, totally agree.
Definitely. And I appreciate also that Citizen understands the idea that, like, hey, we have a thing, but we're not the only ones that have this thing. And if we're not playing along, in the channel, if we're not playing along with these software companies, if we're not recognizing what they bring to the table in addition to us and asking the question, it just goes back to some of these like sales fundamentals we talk about, or the stuff that we talked with Cordy about, over several episodes about understanding your customers and figuring out, what are their pain points, what makes them tick, where are they in the buying journey right now. And I guarantee that if you're having those conversations and you're getting that in-depth discussion, a lot of that conversation is really revolving around the software part of things more than anything.
Absolutely.
It's about what they need to make what they want to happen.
Yes.
Yes, they understand that there's a printer or a barcode scanner or a mobile computer that's part of that, sure.
Yep.
But that's just the same way as knowing like, well, hey, I need a computer to do my work. That's fine. But here's what I need on the computer to actually do my work.
Yep.
And that's the stuff I'm more concerned about than anything. The computer, not as irrelevant, but at least is part of that same conversation.
CIOs are not, they're not out there Googling SKUs to see what printer to buy. They're solving business problems, right? And so we want to be part of that solution conversation with the CIO. We don't want to say, here's our widget, please buy our widget. That's not how we think. As a manufacturer, if we're thinking that way, then we're losing ground.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Business outcomes is the phrase that I would bring into the dialogue, right? Because solution providers need to focus on what the business outcome is for their customers. And whatever that is, the intellectual property built to facilitate the business outcome, these are the people that are gonna win in the new channel, if you will.
I agree.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about distribution. Again, we don't like to talk about ourselves that much, but sometimes, but at the same time,
Because we live it every day.
Well, yeah, and we do have a pivotal role in this channel. And again, it was one that I didn't quite get when I started here.
Yep.
And I love Tracy's perspective on it here. That initially it was something as simple as a warehouse and a bank.
Right.
And even that like the bank side of things is the one thing that I didn't quite get for a while either. Like, I didn't realize like that role we played. And then once you figured it out, you're like, well, that makes sense. Someone needs to help some of these small businesses be able to fulfill $1 million deal when they don't have the money to fulfill $1 million deal.
Yep.
So, how has that changed? We have this unique role. And, we try to build these strong relationships with you, the vendors, with our VAR partners. I think we're building stronger and stronger relationships with software than ever before over the last several years. But why do you think having disties involved makes such a big difference and works so well in this channel?
Well, from my perspective, certainly BlueStar is an outstanding partner. And I think one of the things that BlueStar does really well is they have a whole channel view kind of mindset. You know what I mean? It's not like you're thinking, okay, well, I sell this set of widgets at this price to this set of customers. And, I want to lower the barriers to entry so that a small business can finance a big deal. That's all very in the box thinking. Those things are what need to happen. But what BlueStar does is they take a whole channel view and say, okay, if I connect this dot with this dot, then there's a chance for me to do what I do and to make money. There's a value proposition there, right? And I think that whole channel view is how distribution in general has changed. Even as a manufacturer, I think I see the whole America's channel, but I don't. I don't see the whole America's channel. I don't see the mobile computing side as much as I need to. I don't know the deals that are happening necessarily on a deal by deal basis in the mobile computing side, whereas you do. And so if there's an opportunity for me to partner with someone who does mobile computing, to partner with a VAR who's chasing a multi-million-dollar opportunity, why that, connecting those dots is very valuable, not only to the end user and to the VAR, but also to the manufacturer.
Absolutely. And I think that's the healthy role of a distributor, even moving forward, right? It's beyond pick, pack, ship. That's not, and it's really interesting the perspective you brought early on, Tracy, that, the small to medium sized businesses weren't being, serviced by a distributor at all. A lot of vendors were going direct and created a lot of issues, around financing, around those types of things. And to be honest with you, manufacturers don't want to get into distribution, and that's fine. So distributors and what we do is we saw the value add proposition being much broader than just a pick pack ship. So, and I think that's even important as the channel continues to evolve, right? We're all evolving. Distribution is not immune to that. We're going to continue to evolve as well. But the good news here is embracing the ecosystem so that the partners can enjoy that combined intellectual property that we're all building to gravitate towards new solutions that we can bring to market. And that's the key.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a great story there too about the idea of having a business that you're really good at something, like if it's distribution, for instance, like, hey, we know we're great at distribution. We understand how it works. Everybody wants to send all their stuff to us because we have the best methodology for, for storing, pick, pack, ship, getting everything where it's supposed to go, the right time, right place. But then also understanding, like, that doesn't mean it has to be all we are.
That's right.
There's more that we can be. And I think that's a story that can resonate up and down the channel for, from the vendors all the way down to the resellers and even to their customers too. It's always a great story to tell with any business. They're like, hey, we found out how we could do something really, really good. And then we figured out what else we could do. We just kept building on top of that until we became something different. Yeah. And I think it's I feel like it's almost like how this channel's come to be and why someone like us has fit into it, because we realized, like, hey, sure, we could do this, but we can also do a lot more for you too.
That's right.
And we're going to do that more part.
Yeah. So. And sometimes it's in the services, right? That are brought to bear, like when we, what's that, Tracy? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's the services, right? You feel like the extension of the manufacturer and the way you service the VAR views your services as an extension of themselves, enabling to do things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do, right?
That's it. That's exactly right.
And I think the biggest and most important part of that whole thing then too is then the end user, the people that are getting these solutions and implementing them. As far as they're concerned, it's a seamless experience. They don't need to know how many different pieces and parts and people were involved at all the different steps of the channel. All they care about is, did I get the solution I needed for the business cause and for the business, what was it you said earlier?
Business outcome.
The business outcome that I wanted.
Right. Yeah.
And if that is satisfied, the rest of it is just, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, right.
I don't care how many different vendors, distributors, software companies, people, services. I don't care all that different little pieces. They love the fact, and I think that's where you become like a hero to them. When you come to them and say, like, hey, I'm delivering everything you need right here, and all you have to deal with is me.
That's it. And I'll go back to one of the examples I've been bringing. We've been thinking about, when you think about visual AI and how that is moving, how that manifests itself. If you're a POS reseller today, and you have your tech stack, and that's all well and good, and you have a customer that comes to you and says, you know what, we're having a really hard time on quality control, getting orders out, in a manner that is efficient and the exact same every single time. So you need to be tapped into a universe where, AI and vision and visual cameras are starting to be utilized to do just that, to look at an order before it goes out the door and verifies, everything's in here. It's what it needs to be. These are the types of ways that it's going to start manifesting itself. It is. And the wonderful part there is if you can hook up with the right people there, now you can develop a little bit of intellectual property that you can now take it over. Oh yeah, hey, by the way, not only I built the solution over here, but I can take it to these other customers and scale it over there. Man, cool stuff.
Yeah,
but anyway.
It definitely is. So, Tracy, let's talk about this whole Amazon effect. And we just actually had a good conversation with Drew Arnold from Newcastle a couple of weeks back about how, in this explosion of e-commerce over the last couple of years, that, B2B was actually even outrunning B2C. But that also, it kind of came with some dangerous side effects when we've all been sitting at home and gotten used to our quick, fast delivery, low cost. That our expectation is like, okay, well then when I go to work and I need the same things, I need it all quick, fast, low cost, at my door, ready to go. So even though B2B is a very different beast than B2C, those expectations are still out there. How is that affecting you from the vendor level? How do you think that's affecting disties, VARs, et cetera? Like what is that doing to our channel right now?
Oh gosh, I mean, we could spend the next 3 hours talking about the Amazon. Right? I said I should write a doctoral thesis on the Amazon channel because I could literally sit down and write the thing like this afternoon. Amazon is really many different channels, and it has one flavor to the consumer and one flavor to this set of customers and one flavor to this set of suppliers. It's really a number of different channels, and while the business to business sale is much different, they already have their foot in that water. They already have a business portal that is, a B2B type sale. But the difference is, I think that, when a business goes to Amazon to buy a product, they have done a lot of research themselves, but there still might be this thing or that thing that they don't quite know. And trying to get that answer through that portal, I think gets frustrating for end users. It gets frustrating for people who don't understand the channel top to bottom and live in it like we do, and so I think there is still some nuance there, some added value that certainly our channel can provide. But what I saw happen a few years ago is I predicted that, just because, not because I'm smarter than anyone else, but just I read the things that I saw, and I said, these guys, Amazon, are going to go directly to manufacturers and negotiate single digit margin deals and put the product in their own supply chain and bring it here. And sure enough, if we've not seen some of that happen, right? So what I would say they're probably looking at next is how to sort of grow their business to business thing and capture that share. And what I see them doing there is trying to add value there that they don't currently know how to add. You know what I mean? It's like pretty soon you're going to see resources, human resources dedicated to that. And they're going to become, they're going to be out there calling on large businesses and saying, buy through our channel and we'll help you add value and we'll supply resources and all these things to help you do that. I think they're still figuring that out, but I think they are going to figure it out.
Yeah, it seems intuitive, right? I mean, they're such a beast. It is Amazon.
It's the 500-pound gorilla.
It is, well.
And getting bigger every day.
I'll go 800 pounds on that one. But, I don't know. I have some hope here because I think it's going to take them kind of where Tracy was going there a little bit. I think it's going to take a beast like Amazon a little while to figure out all the nuance. That's a word I use. And as I've grown to appreciate the channel and the business that we're in, there is a lot of nuance. And it's hard to automate a lot of that, right? At the end of the road, can they throw up a printer online and have it at as skinny a margin as possible? Yeah, but a lot of manufacturers are pushing back on that because they realize that that's going to have a negative impact on the channel that they built a business on, that there's some value behind. I mean, we've just talked about it. A solutions integrator or whatever, a VAR, solutions integrator, whatever you want to call them today, a channel partner has to be able to develop these solutions. You can't necessarily automate that. So I think that maybe they'll figure it out, but I think it's going to take them a while to figure out a channel like ours or the IT channel that is a little bit more in that value proposition of having to figure things out, right? It's not just as easy as, oh, here's the book I want. What's the price? It's cheaper, a little bit used. Okay, here's the printer I need, but how does this fit into the whole thing that I'm building?
Right. I mean, as an end user, I'm looking at it going, okay, I still know that I need this piece and this piece, but there's some connectivity. There's some business problem that I'm trying to solve that they can't necessarily help me figure out, right? And so from, as a manufacturer, I look at it's like giving the keys to my brand new 16-year-old driver, hoping they don't have a wreck. You know what I mean? So, okay, I'm going to let you sell the product, but I don't want you going 100 miles an hour around curves and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's so they're trying to figure that out from a manufacturer standpoint. I like the stability of partnering with people who know what they're doing because it has a tendency to protect everyone's value proposition. I think if you don't understand the use case and the business problem you're trying to solve, it immediately goes to price. And all of a sudden, price. Now the margins are gone, but there's still a business problem that needs to be solved. That's the danger,
Yep, yeah. You're dead on there. That's right.
Agree. All right, well let's get to the part here where we start prognosticating.
Yes.
And figuring out the future. And again, we're gonna let Tracy do most of this so that we aren't held liable for it.
Take blame.
That's right.
Exactly. Again, when someone finds this podcast in a few years, dust off the archives. We want them to hopefully they'll say like, man, these guys were on it, and not these idiots. What were they thinking? So Tracy, let's do a little future forecasting here. What do you think this channel is going to look like? And we're not going way off in the future, just over the next 3 to 5 years or so. I mean, I don't know if we're going to be out of this pandemic,
right?
Sort of, supply chain cluster, there's a lot of stuff happening right now that I could still see hanging around in a few years. So what do you think happens next?
Gosh, in our channel as a whole, I think, it's going to continue to mature, but in different ways. I think people are going to get much more savvy about, manufacturers are going to have to figure out that, look, we can't just cookie cutter widgets and hope for the best, right? We have to change the way we sell and our value proposition that separates me from the other people who make printers. I tell my team that, look, no VAR has 100% market share. So go to your VARs, figure out what their deal filter looks like, what defines their piece of business, and then go prospect as if you're them. Use our name to get meetings and find deals. But once you find them, bring them back to your VARs, to your partners, and say, okay, let's put together a team, an A team, a dream team to go capture this piece of business. And I think we as manufacturers have to figure that out. I think that the distributors have to figure out how to just prevent taking $1 from this pocket and just putting it in this hand and putting it in the other pocket, the share shift that takes place. You know what I mean? And distributors have done a good job of figuring that out. Well, if I do business development at the distribution level, then I can enlarge the pie so that we can bring suppliers and buyers together to grow the overall business. And, what does that look like 3 to 5 years from now? Well, I think the army of people that are doing business development, even at the distribution level, and cultivating new VARs and new solutions, I think that is going to continue to mature. And then I think the VAR is going to have to figure out how to change the way they sell. As we said, whoever controls the software controls the deal. So, they have to think as a service. They have to think leasing. They have to, I sit on these calls with tier 1 end users, and I hear the analysts pepper them with, how are you going to reduce capital expenditure? And they say, we're going to lease things and we're going to do as a service. And so I tell the VARs, hey guys, this big tier 1 end user just said they want to lease product and, and do as a service. So customize a message to go to them, and change the way they sell, because a lot of ours are not thinking that way. Some are, some aren't, But I think that maturity at all levels, engagement with the end user, and understanding the use case from the manufacturer of the widget to the VAR who gets the purchase order, I think all that is going to continue to evolve.
Yeah, it's interesting to see with some of the other things. I agree with everything that Tracy said there. There are, I'll throw on the table, platforms. There are a lot of platforms like Salesforce and stuff like that people are starting to build applications off of, and that's going to start leaking into our world. And so the net at the end of the road is, you have to be, I think that resellers are going to turn into more business advisors, right? You're going in, you own the relationship. You're focusing in on what the business outcome is the need of your customer, and then you're going back into your ecosystem to figure out how to solve that. And a lot of it might be platform-based, where they're going to try to lead people on to, utilizing different aspects of a platform to facilitate these different business outcomes. But it's going to be wild in the sense that it's not just point of sale. It's all the stuff that goes into the business and operating a business efficiently, through the utilization of such things as AI or machine learning or those types of things. I mean, these are the things where people are just going to have to get involved in. So, the software development community is going to be as rapidly growing as ever, and trying to keep a pulse on that is going to be really important as well. So, I don't know, 3 to 5 years out, you're going to see this blurring, I think, maybe between ISVs and VARs, and their desire to have that intellectual property in-house and be able to what do they call it? White glove it, or white box it, or where they can go out and sell it.
Right.
Is the word I'm looking for there. But the ecosystem, I think, is going to remain healthy and be more and more important to leverage as folks go out there and implement these solutions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think if I'm even going to distill down what you guys have both been saying even a little bit more simplistic, customization, niche business cases and business solutions.
Yep.
Like, I think it's all about this idea of when someone says to you, I want to do X, Y, Z, instead of saying, well, I can do X and Y, kind of Z, but I've got this and this would be good enough. You're saying, okay, I'm going to get together with all my folks and make X, Y, Z happen. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
Because I think if the companies that are willing to say that and back it up and do it are the ones that are going to survive, thrive, the ones that people are going to keep coming back to, saying like, man, I loved working with them. because I told them exactly what I needed to happen and they made it happen.
And I think you can, grow off of that. If you take on the mentality of being a business advisor, which I really think channel partners are going to have to do, it's also, once you get the initial install, it's going back to those folks and saying, hey, by the way, I've been working on these other bits of the solution that I think can augment your business and improve your business, and here's how, and those types of things. Yeah. This is what you're going to need to have
you can
to do.
You can set the direction.
There you go.
Business moving forward too. When you can do that, when you can say like, hey, sure, I can accomplish all of this for you, but you know what? I also think that this could be very important for your business.
That's
or going to another industry and saying, hey, look, we've been doing great work over here with this. I feel like and you mentioned that earlier, like if there's an application for your particular business out of this as well. Here's why. Here's all the research and all the work we've done. And I think people that come equipped with that and are willing to put in the work and the effort are the ones that are going to really stand out over the next few years.
Yeah, agreed.
And if I might just interject really quickly, I think the companies that are nimble, that can change, listen, there's something to be said for sticking to your core competency. There's no question about that. And you have to crush that. You have to know how to do that. But you also need to understand adjacent technology so that when things change, you can reshape who you are and what you do to go where the demand is and where the business as the business case. We all found that out during the pandemic, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Suddenly, a company that makes point of sale printers had to find something else to do for about a quarter and a half, while everybody shut down. So what we said is, okay, what else do we have, and how can we help our reseller partners continue to make money in this apocalyptic world of nobody's buying point of sale printers? So I think using speed as a weapon, you know what I mean, being able to change and redefine who you are.
Yeah.
And that's just it though, Tracy. You hit the nail on the head there. This idea of the companies I think that were going to do well versus the ones that weren't, are the ones that didn't get in that same situation and go, oh no, everything's on fire. It's all going to end. Yeah. How are we going to deal with this? Let's lay a bunch of people off. We may not survive this. And the ones that said, okay, well, I guess we can't do this right now. And that sucks because it is obviously our business. Let's figure out what else we can do to help. And I think and let's be honest, while again, we hope there's never going to be another worldwide pandemic to shake things up the same way. You never know what's going to happen that's going to completely change the business. Yep. Could happen as soon as the next year. It could be 20 years in the future. And if your attitude is that same attitude of maybe I get disrupted today, but if I do get disrupted, I got to figure out what else I can do to help. That's an awesome attitude to have to take on whatever challenges might come.
Yep, agreed.
So. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, this has been a fantastic conversation. I think we made sensible predictions.
Sensible,
there.
Yes.
I don't think this will come back.
Nothing too
us.
Radical, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We didn't say I don't know, no one will ever need a printer again in the future. It'll all magically, appear out of the cloud. I don't know. We didn't do stuff like that.
There's still a segment that always wants a receipt. I'm just saying.
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, hey, let's take a moment. I want to thank, as always, our TEConnect sponsors, Datalogic, Elo, Epson, Intel, Honeywell, and Zebra. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And thank you to Citizen for supporting this episode and lending Tracy to us. We appreciate him today. As always, if you like the show, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We definitely would appreciate that. There's all kinds of great content we're always putting out there, and you won't miss a new episode. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating and review anywhere you listen. And hey, more importantly, if you like the show, share it with somebody else.
That's right.
Send an episode that you liked over to someone, maybe one of your customers, even if it's not, if it's one of the ones that's not super channel specific, but has just some interesting ideas, send it to a customer and say, hey, you may not enjoy all of this, but I thought this conversation, the 15-minute mark, was really relevant. Maybe we can talk about it sometime.
Yeah.
I don't know. Little business tip for you there. As always, if you want to connect with us and tell us your thoughts about the show or give us some suggestions for future topics, you can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up with our recurring segments. First of all, our value to the VAR. This is where we kind of want to give you all a little takeaway from this episode, maybe something you can do today to act upon the conversation we've had. So, Tracy, what do you think are one or two things that VARs should be doing now to ensure that they're going to still be around, still be relevant for this channel future that we've described, even as short term as we went?
Yeah, I think the thing I would advise resellers to do is to understand the whole picture, right? The whole business problem, and your place in it, and change how you think. I mean, rather than just competing with 10 other resellers selling the same piece of hardware, understand the adjacent technologies, the things around you that are driving the business decision, the buying decision, and the different influences who are there. And I think the better you understand the use case and the people involved in the buying decision and the people, the business problems that are driving, compelling people to do things, I think the better you understand that, the more likely you are to win.
I agree. That's good stuff right there. Were you going to say something else there, Tracy?
And I was just going to say, build some relationships with some of these adjacent solution providers. And so, when they find a deal, hey, they're walking by a piece of the deal that belongs to you, and I think the more of those conversations, the more you network, the more relationships you build, the better you'll be able to locate something when it pops up. You may be somebody who's really good at printing and media, but you may have a partner who knows mobile computing, and they're in there finding a mobile computing deal. Well, those, a lot of times have a printing component or a software component to them. And I think the more of those relationships you have, the more you can quickly put together a team to solve that business problem.
Brilliant. That's exactly it. I love your phrase, adjacent technologies. I'm going to start using that one because that's a good mindset to be in, right? I know my technologies. What's adjacent to me as I look around? Those are the shorter putts that you can really develop that. And if you take on the mindset of developing business outcomes and utilizing that as a kind of a new frame of mind, then you start looking around at all these adjacent technologies and what can I do? And then finally, look for that intellectual property. These are the types of things that you need to start building moving forward that you can leverage, right? Like you're creating this niche solution that you can scale or take to market, even if it's just in your region. That's okay. That's a good thing to do because you'll grow your business that way and become a true business advisor.
Yeah. I like this adjacent technology idea too, because it's one of those things that I feel like today's adjacent technology could be tomorrow's integrated technology.
Like very nice. That was bold.
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
That's poetry right there.
Well, because it could be, the stuff that you think like, okay, these two things have nothing really to do with each other. They're just two things that people might need in the same space.
Yep.
You never know when at some point those two things might be talking to each other, through IoT or whatever, or might be highly connected and attuned to one another. Think about all the technology over the years that we've always treated as something just, disparate. Just think of our phone, for instance. How many technologies are in there that used to be 40 different technologies that you could have around your home or an office that are now all built into one place? That could easily happen with your adjacent technology that's out there too.
Yeah, so, good stuff. Yep.
I like that. All right. Well, let's get to our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with Us? This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, innovation that has caught our eye, has our attention, could be something that's exciting us, could be something that makes us certain that the world is coming to an end. Maybe we'll try to stay away from those. Mine today is not, I promise.
Oh, okay.
Tracy, I'll let you start. What's TEConnecting with you?
Sure. I like to just look around, speaking of adjacent technologies and convergent devices and technologies like you were talking about. One of the things that has caught my eye recently is Fast ID Online, right? So FIDO technology, where I don't know about you, but I am the worst at coming up with strong passwords that I can remember. And storing them all now in a database that's 50 million records is getting more difficult all the time. So, I've been reading about, data keys, security keys that allow me to, not have to remember passwords and reduce things like hacking and phishing and all those things. And I think as the standards for Fast ID Online come around, a world without passwords really is fascinating to me.
I love that idea too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, because then you get your spouse involved, and then now I'm getting to the point where my kids are like tapping into some of my accounts, my Netflix account. And so it's like you have this just I got passwords all over the place. I have no idea. I've got an Excel sheet that's got the passwords on it.
Yep. And I came to become one of these people that understood like, okay, I can't use the same password for everything. But as I'm growing that list, I keep looking at it like, this is absurd. Like I literally have about 80, 90 different passwords for things now. And it's just, you can't keep up with that.
It's unattainable.
The browser says, do you want us to create a strong password? Sure. and it's 500 characters with, 30 different, there's no way I can remember it if I forget it. So then what do I do? Right. So, this FIDO technology was fascinating to me because now I've got a security key that's like a set of car keys, right? I plug it in and suddenly I can browse everywhere because it's confidently identified me, so that when I check in and check over here and do this thing and pay this bill and do whatever it is, I've got one secure thing. But then I thought, well, what happens if I lose that, right? Now I'm back in the same boat. So you were talking about convergent devices. Well, now they're talking about being able to do that with your phone and using biometrics to positively identify you, and your phone becomes the key, right? I'm pretty sure that I'm always going to have my phone. So, the security evolves in tech, the linkage between myself, my phone, and the internet. I think once we shore up all of those things, the idea of not having one password or the idea of having one secure access to the world is a cool proposition.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff. Yeah.
Dean, what about you? What's TEConnect with you?
All right. Well, here's my headline: Google search is dying.
Okay.
So
anybody told Google that?
It was a really fascinating little read that I had here. And, of course, they had the charts about how certain social media have hit their peak, like Facebook. If you look at Facebook and how many people have logged on, it's like tanking and stuff like that. But
as it should be.
There you go. Here's the subhead. Reddit is currently the most popular search engine. The only people who don't know that are the team at Reddit, who can't be bothered by building a decent search interface. So instead, we resort to using Google and appending the word like Reddit at the end of the query. So they made the whole argument here, and I agree with them. The Google, have you noticed it's a little different with whenever you Google? Here's one of the big things that I have noticed is you put in whatever query you're going to do. And a lot of times there are so many ads.
Oh yeah,
you gotta scroll. Yeah. You gotta scroll way to the bottom to get the organic stuff. Yeah. And they were just hammering on the fact that that people are just getting fed up with that. It's like, okay, now I realize that all you're really doing is serving ads. That's it.
So you're saying it's time to bring back Ask Jeeves?
Maybe, maybe, but Reddit. So here it is. What the article is saying is that people trust less the results that they're getting in Google because they feel like they're being directed by the big corporate dollars that are funneling the dollars into there, as compared to seeing a discussion about the topic on Reddit. And it's not like Reddit can't have its own level of BS and stuff like that, but it's more authentic, right? Is the feeling is that at least you're going to have some authenticity around if you're searching for something, especially like a how-to or something along those lines. Reddit is becoming much, much more utilized than Google. So they were saying Google search is dying. I don't know. Bring back Ask Jeeves. Yes.
We'll see. A little dubious on that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
But no, there's a very good point there. You're right that I hate that. Like when you go Google something and you're right. It's just stack on stack of ad. You're used to at least seeing a couple at the top. Right. But when I start scrolling and I'm always paying, I will, here's the thing, even if my search result is one of the ads, what I want to get to, I will scroll past the ad version.
Everybody does.
Just to get to the regular version. Yes. So if it's a company I'm looking for, and the first one is their ad version, I'm like, no, I'm going to go to your real one. I'm not giving you a dime for clicking on your ad version that is cluttering the top half of my feed here.
That's it. That's it. Anyway, what's TEConnecting with you?
Okay, so does anybody remember the iBeer app?
What?
Okay, this
iBeer.
Back in 2008, a long time ago, early iPhone days. there was a guy who started off by uploading a video of him drinking a beer on his phone.
Okay.
So it was like he was on, like the picture on his phone was like a beer.
Right.
That looked like it was bubbling and and had foam at the top. And when you tipped it up against your mouth, it looked like you were drinking, and it would actually go down and decline until it was gone.
Got it. Yep.
This is the kind of stuff we did in 2008.
That's it.
Kids of the world.
Very limited.
This was how exciting iPhones were back then. So, first he uploaded this as a clip to YouTube. It got tons of hits, lots of views. So he's like, well, maybe I can make some money off this. So he uploaded a file of it to iTunes initially for $2.99.
Okay.
And he said he was making about $2,000 a day off of that.
Come on.
This is an interesting story about this whole, like, how this thing came and went.
All right.
And so he's making a decent chunk of change off of it. Well, then Apple approached him about adding it to the App Store, which they had just recently launched.
Okay.
As one of its earliest apps. So they did. It came out on the App Store, and it was one of the most popular apps for a while there. Because again,
iBeer.
we didn't have a lot of cool apps back then.
No, there weren't.
I don't think I even got an iPhone until like 2010, and even then there wasn't a lot of exciting stuff.
Right.
So this app, though, at its peak, was drawing in $10,000 to $20,000 a day.
Come on.
From people buying it for their phones.
Just so they could
just so
mimic.
they could pretend they were drinking a beer on their phone. There was nothing else to it. It did nothing else for you. That was it. And this guy was making bank off of it. Now, it did also, dry up and go away fairly quickly.
Yes.
He said, it was a little article I was reading with this guy. The app is still out there, apparently, on the App Store.
Okay,
But,
all right.
Who cares about that these days?
Right.
I think Marco literally just looked it up while we were talking about it. It's still out there. Doesn't really make money off of it anymore. But it also mentioned in the article, now lives on a ranch with his family in Spain. I'm like, well, clearly he did okay.
He did okay. Yeah.
But it was a fascinating story about how, something can just go so, I guess, viral if you want to think about it. And their comparison was now we've got the stuff like TikTok, and other different apps that people are just so all totally into and are the thing for a short amount of time and then, fade away too. But if you're that person that gets to strike at the right time with the right thing that everybody just thinks is super fun and cool, especially, with a kind of nascent emerging, technology as the iPhone was at that time.
Yep.
This guy made some bank off of it and clearly set himself up for a nice future. Hopefully, I guess if he's living on his ranch in Spain, he must have done well for himself and took care of his money too and didn't go low at all.
Sounds good. Yeah. If I'm making $10,000 a day, I'm trying to bank some of that, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that just amazing? Can you imagine something so simplistic? We're not talking high level software design, like a giant team. I'm pretty sure this was literally one dude that did this and figured this out and made bank off of it.
Yeah,
So,
that's a flash in the pan.
Hay while the sun shines.
That's exactly it, Tracy.
Exactly.
Yep.
So there's a lesson for you. If you find that one little thing, enjoy it while you can, make as much money as you can, and ride off in the sunset. Tracy Tucker from Citizen, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate having you on the show.
My pleasure.
And hey, until next time, folks, crack open an iBeer, have yourself a good time.
Pretend like you're having one.
And as always, please stay connected. The TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Citizen. Now, Dean, we've established on the pod that I'm a bit of a germaphobe, right?
You got that right. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
When they started telling us that we had to use hand sanitizer and wash our hands after touching things in public, I just went, yeah, duh, and
Yeah, right.
what else?
Yeah.
Well, hey, at least Citizen understands people like me and the necessity for safe, hygienic devices. That's why they've introduced their newest generation of best-in-class top exit POS receipt printers, the CTE 301 and CTE 601.
So disinfectant ready? Is that where we're going with this?
Both feature disinfectant-ready protective housings made from silver ion-infused plastics. I don't know what that means, but it sounds awesome. And if it means I don't get germs, great. They do suppress germ growth transmitted through human touch. So when your germy hands touch it, and mine not as germy as well, I'm much safer than I'd be with most printers.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Which is important.
It is. It is important,
Yeah.
especially for high-touch areas. We got lots of employees, potentially customers touching. Now, of course, that's not all these printers can do. Both are high-quality, small footprint with advanced print speeds up to 350 millimeters per second.
That's quick.
Plenty of connection options like USB, serial, or Ethernet. The 601 even has a lightning port, very important for anybody doing those kind of mobile POS, or using a mobile device.
Yep.
One hand media change and an anti-curl function.
I love this.
So that when you get to the end of the roll, they don't start curling up into a cylinder.
I love that.
I hate that. When I was in retail, it was something I always hated.
Yes.
Or when you got to the end of the printer paper and it started bleeding red or green or something, and you had to change it. You're in the middle of a transaction. You're like, sorry, folks, and clunk, clunk.
Or you try to hand them this curled up receipt. Ridiculous. Yeah.
Fill this up with some tobacco, roll it up, have a smoke.
That's a brilliant function that they put in this thing, if you ask me.
Both of these printers are also available in black or white housing. So to learn more about the CTE 301 and E601, check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar representative. Dean, we're pretty fond of environmentally friendly products around here on the TEConnect podcast, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I mean, you drive a Tesla.
Yes.
I recycle a lot of
Yes,
stuff.
it's good for the environment.
It is.
It's for the children.
That's
John.
right. Marco has solar panels on his house. So.
Right?
See, we're an eco-friendly bunch around here.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, Citizen is pretty eco-friendly as well.
Yes.
That's why they have an Eco POS printer. This is the industry-leading CT-S3102. It's a compact and advanced receipt and barcode printer featuring an Energy Star power supply, power save function, halogen-free housing, and packaging produced from recycled materials. They clearly
There
get
you
it.
go.
Yeah.
Applaud.
A truly environmentally friendly device.
Nice.
With an easy maintenance cutter and patented long life printing technology capable of extending print life to over 200 kilometers.
What?
That's a lot of receipts.
That is.
The CT-S3102 offers the ultimate combination of performance and energy efficiency. It's high speed, 160 millimeters per second printing.
That's quick.
You get your choice of paper widths, an extensive range of advanced functions, top load or top exit, ideal for those retail applications.
Quick.
Another nice, quick, cool, and eco-friendly printer.
Very nice.
So if you're looking to help your customers be eco-friendly, if that's something they're concerned about,
And who isn't at this point? Come on.
they should be. If
Right?
they're not, find new customers.
That's
Come on. Reach out to your BlueStar representative or your Citizen BDM.